Hey there, greetings to my people from here at the Great Start Studio, where all of my drumming dreams are coming true. It's true. So this is where I'm shooting a video of the entire instructional series here in the studio, the 13 volumes of the London's Great Start Drum Set series. It's printed and the Kindle versions are available on Amazon as well as on my website, which is London's Great Start Drum Set. You can go there and check it all out. All my new videos from the studio will be available on that website for online lessons. Today I'm going to be talking about revealing some of my original drum heroes, what I call the Artistic Influence series. Drummers that I can actually see some of their playing in mine, that they've influenced me to that level. Drummers who truly changed my playing for the better, all the way through. There's some influence there in my actual hands and feet when I play. If in the studio, if I made posters of all the tribute, as a tribute to all the people, it'd just be every inch of every wall would be covered. It's just that these are the ones that have really, really influenced me in some foundational sort of way. So I made these posters as a tribute and a reminder of these great players. They're in my office. I'll be showing you. There's just too many to cover them all, but a handful that have really actually, I can see in my playing. There's so many great players who have inspired me in my drumming, but these are the select ones that have some way become a part of my style, my diversity, my teaching, my writing, and helped me develop my unique voice, which is a hard thing to find. You have to really listen inside. So anyway, enjoy the whole Artistic Influence series, and I'll be running them down, and I'll see you at the end. So next up on my office inspiration poster video series is Dave Weckl. Dave Weckl really came bursting onto the scene and was just like unstoppable from the beginning. And he just always had an extraordinarily clean, proper, stylistic, kind of like right in the center of what I would call the Renaissance wheel of styles, where there's all these different styles, and he was like just like classically placed in the middle, very clean. I think the first thing I heard him actually on was the little record that came in Modern Drummer. They would have these little, bendable plastic records that kind of came in there, and it was like a little 45. And so this was early on, and just loved it. And then once, he came out with Master Plan and worked with Jay Oliver, and they were, just putting out really incredibly great, clean tracks. His drumming is, the sound, all of it is A-list studio quality, everything right from the beginning. And so he's always had this very clean sort of stylistic approach to say. And then the Modern Drummer Festival I saw with him and Steve Gadd and Vinnie Colaiuta, and there's three of my favorite guys all on the same stage, and all speaking their sound in a unique way, and still playing together. For some reason, that was a really moving memorial for Buddy Rich, but also, it was just a class act all the way around. And, they're all different, but they're all, in a way, they're all kind of cut from the same cloth, in a way. Very rudimental based, stylistic based, lots of music in the same era. When Dave, with Master Plan, and it was on the GRP label, I just started buying like everything on the GRP label. It was every Dave Grusin record. There were so many, right? Rittenhour, and so much great music on there, in the same sort of vein where they were, playing down the Rippingtons, everybody, like, it was just so good as an era. It was kind of the flip side for me of the Shrapnel record era. So the Shrapnel record era was all of, basically kind of in the sort of Malmsteen sort of frame of mind, where it was all the shredding guitar player virtuoso kind of instrumental, play anything you want, Marty Friedman, McAlpine, all of them, just playing in every direction. But that was like a instrumental rock, sort of neoclassical influence, kind of a bit of everything they wanted to do, right? That they just couldn't market. This is kind of what the GRP label was, and Dave, to me, typified the cutting edge of that, because the work that he was doing with Jay Oliver was so clean, right? And so, even his solo in the Buddy Rich Memorial, this is way back, is so clean. It's clean dynamically. You can see he's got a confidence about what he can do on the kit. He stays within those boundaries. To be able to play kind of a stylistic way that's modern, that has, punches and very worked out little solo parts that are, he's not just, once again, winging it in a sense, because there are punches and stabs and stops and stuff, and he's picking up on all those. You work out where those are and how to set those up. And Dave's got a brilliant way of doing that. It's so natural and smooth, and anybody who's a Dave Weckl fan understands what I'm saying here, is that it's something that it draws you in to have that kind of, it's like a stylistic civility on the drums, where you have this sort of sense that he's not owned by it. He owns it. He's over practiced it in a way that he can be creative in 1,000 different directions over any one of these tracks. And these are the notes, once again, that he chose to do. And, he obviously can play. Like when he did all the work with Chicoria, acoustic band, electric band, and they're going in every direction in a much more jazz sort of vein, where it could be just a trio, right? And they're playing freely and very loosely connected, right? Very improvisationally. And it still is very controlled. That is where I started really appreciating that kind of work, is through Dave. That is the legacy that Dave has left with me. He's still making incredible work. He just has always had, he's a go-to guy in 50 different ways, Michael Stern, everybody. And he always plays something that rises up to whatever that music requires. It never seems to be in the way, even though it can be very notey, even though stylistically it can be very dense, from a kind of layering standpoint of notes that are going on, even between him and other players, and yet it still has kind of a breath. It speaks. Dave has got a thing that I've always wanted to emulate. Many times you ever do this where you're sitting on a kit and you're playing with a band, or you're playing with a track or something, and in your mind you're like, what would Dave do here? It's like what would so-and-so ex-drummer do here? And you kind of pass through kind of what your interpretation of his ideas would be through you, and go, how do I rise up to that? Becomes kind of your watermark standard, right? He just has a very clean, crisp way of creating something. I remember, like I said, I have this huge pop music love, and Robbie Neville was a guy in the 80s, and he played almost everything. And he had the song C'est La Vie, which made him really popular. And then as a hit, and there was a number of hits, but his music, you could tell he was really trying to craft some other things other than just straight out pop. And on one of the tracks, I can't remember what this track was, but I remember it was in 5, and I was like, oh wow, this is really kind of outside for Robbie. And it was the one track where he hired somebody out. It was Dave. He had Dave come in and play this track in 5, and I was like, man, this is the kind of thing that you would just love to be called into. Somebody's got a project and their drummer, that they usually work with isn't really comfortable with this, whatever this unusual, grid, complication, punches, whatever it is, style or whatever, and then they call you in. That is the type of thing where I just go, man, I so would love to have that, right? In the early days, and I was struggling to try to figure out what styles were and how to, be able to rise up to somehow get competent enough to be hired for these things. Dave was a huge role model in that for me. And of course, he's just a go-to guy, right? Because he rises up to all those things and pulls off the work, like he should, I think. And so from my standpoint of Dave, and I would say his use of kind of double strokes in setting up these phrases, I just love it. I love that too. And so he has a way of playing, let's say, a song go that isn't too, it's smoother. He has a way of making them smoother and not so kind of academic. And those are the things that I think of when I go, man, that's what I want to put into my playing. That's the result of Dave's influence on my playing is that when those things need to be more what I call round phrases, then I smooth them out with double stroke type work. And then when they need to be more aggressive, more like square phrases, then I use single stroke type work. This was a conversation I had with Dean Castronova one time about single strokes versus double strokes. And I always, when I think double strokes, I just think of Dave Weckl. I just do, because he has this smooth, rolling way of playing things. It's never really confrontive. It's not an aggressive kind of all of a sudden a jerky kind of a rhythmic change. It's always kind of smoothly goes into the very next sentence without it really becoming a labor, like a labor for your ears. It's always very relaxing. It seems like that is the next obvious step that should take place rhythmically. These are the things that I think of when I think of Dave. And anyway, and once again, these are tributes to people who really influenced me when I was starting out and trying to reach. And Dave, I just want to thank you, Dave, for adding that into my life, and so that it comes out somehow out of my playing.